Welcome back to the Ben Mulroney Show. Thank you so much for joining us. So Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the Conservative Party, is reintroducing himself to Canadians following his loss of his seat in Ottawa. He's scheduled for a by-election in Alberta, and that will see him, if it goes according to plan, winning that seat and back in the House of Commons, where he can lead his party at least until the leadership review, which may or may not go his way. But in the interim, he is, I think, trying to come back and reintroduce himself to Canadians in a different way. Same guy, maybe different tone. And yesterday he gave a pretty substantial speech where first of all, he said, everyone needs to compromise in order to build major infrastructure projects. This is just days before the Prime Minister is scheduled to meet with First Nations on his government's Bill C-5. And I think that's a really important thing that he's saying. Back in the day, the old version of Pierre Poilievre was the guy who said everything that the Liberals do is wrong. And this guy is coming out and saying, hey, let's all meet in the middle. The Liberals can sort of move off of their position. We'll move off of ours. The First Nations, environmentalists, stakeholders, everyone's got to move from their the position that has stopped us from building these massive projects in the past. And let's meet in the middle and let's build together. That is not something I am used to hearing from the Conservatives, at least for the past 10 years. I like it. I have been quite emboldened by watching the Conservatives vote with the Liberals on these very big issues. The argument was, if you're going to take our ideas, of course, we're going to vote for you. Now, that's not exactly what he's saying. He's saying, listen, let's all just sort of put some water in our wine. And I kind of like hearing that. He also talked about separation in Alberta, because, of course, that's where he's running. He said, we have to put a final end to this notion that Ottawa tells Alberta to pay up and shut up. And that's what Albertans have been told by this Liberal government for a decade. Their frustrations are entirely legitimate. He is not saying that he believes that Alberta should separate. What he is saying is that he's right. Under Justin Trudeau, this Liberal government kept, kept their boot on Alberta's neck. I'm not quite sure what the imagery is I should be going for, but they feel that they have real grievances against Ottawa. They've given a lot, and they don't feel that they've gotten a lot back. If this Prime Minister turns around and authorizes a pipeline, maybe two pipelines, that will, if he gets rid of the single-use plastics ban, if he gets rid of the tanker ban, all those things, if he does those things, I think a lot of this issue of separation goes away as well, which I think is what everybody who loves this country wants to see. So these are some of the broad themes that he discussed in his speech, but let's drill down into some very specific things that he talked about. He talked about immigration and he wants. Why don't we listen to Pierre himself on what he thinks is the issue and how he thinks it's going to get better.
We've had population growth of roughly 1 million a year under the Liberals, while we barely build 200,000 homes. Our job market is stalled, and yet we're adding more people to the workforce. Our young people are facing generational highs in unemployment because the multinational corporations are giving jobs to low-wage temporary foreign workers and that ultimately leave our young people without opportunities. Our country is divided, and we're not able to integrate people at this pace. So in order to fix the problem, we've got to we need to put very hard caps on immigration levels. We need more people leaving than coming for the next couple of years, and we need so our country can actually catch up.
I don't hear anything I have a problem with there. Now, I'm sure that there are going to be people who know far more about this than I, who will say, if we do that, there will be this and that negative knock-on effect. If we don't keep bringing people in, here are where the problems are going to be. But listen, it's either problems for the future or the problems that we're dealing with right now. We have very real problems that have metastasized into crises in this country. And yeah, if more people leave than come in, if our population shrinks for a little bit, I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing if it helps mitigate and minimize some of the crises that we're having. If all of a sudden there are fewer people, that means, if there's fewer people, that means there's more homes. If there's fewer people, that means there's more spots in hospitals, more spots in schools, more jobs, right? That's what that means. And I would rather take on new challenges because of a slower population growth, at least temporarily, if it means that these key crises that we have been dealing with for far too long, crises of our own making, are lessened. And it feels to me like that's the trade-off. And I listened to him there. It sounded absolutely reasonable. I have no problem with what he said. If anybody disagrees, feel free to let me know. More than happy to be told I'm wrong, and more than happy to decide I'm wrong and take a different position. But what I heard from him was measured, reasonable, and seems to me would address a lot of these crises that, frankly, look like they're impossible to tackle in the way that we have built this country, with the status quo. All right, now listen. He's being diplomatic. I think he's putting some water in his wine. He's talking about compromise, but he is still Pierre Poilievre. He is still the leader of the official opposition, which means he has to oppose. He has to oppose those on the other side of the aisle, and that includes the Liberals and specifically Mark Carney. And when Mark Carney announced, or when it was announced that he is going to be recusing himself from over 100, from decisions that could take place dealing with over 100 companies that he has positions in, well, that did not sit very well with the leader of the opposition. A reminder for you what our prime minister said back in the day about whether or not he was in conflict.
I have stood up for Canada. I have left my roles in the private sector at a time of crisis for our country. I'm complying with all the rules. Your line of questioning is trying to invent new rules. I'm complying with the rules that Parliament has laid out and the responsibilities of the Ethics Commissioner. And I will continue to comply with those rules.
All right, so that's not exactly true. Yes, you complied with the rules as they were written, but they were written assuming that whoever was going to run for leadership had already been in the House of Commons, meaning that disclosure would have happened, meaning people would have known what your holdings were before they elected you. It's a loophole that you walk through, and that's fine. But you decided in that moment to say you were complying with the rules. You didn't have to say that. You could have said something else. You chose to say what you said. Here is Pierre Poilievre reacting to the news that things weren't exactly as Mark Carney told us they were.
On Friday, we finally got a look at the Prime Minister's many financial interests that he kept carefully hidden throughout the election and about which he told numerous falsehoods during that same campaign. And so these are what the revelations tell us. One, that Mr. Carney was not upfront or honest with Canadians during the election. He made numerous false statements he would have known were false when he made them. Two, there is a cornucopia of conflicts of interest in these investments, like we have never seen before from a Canadian Prime Minister.
There is nothing wrong with someone being successful. I want successful people to look at politics as the next challenge. I'm very glad that Mark Carney decided that this was the next chapter for him. But the way he framed it was, I have no conflicts, and I'm here because I'm bullish on Canada. Had we known what he was holding, he wouldn't have been able to say that. He wouldn't have been able to say, I'm bullish on Canada, I believe in Canada, because his holdings would have told a different story. By the way, nothing wrong with his holdings, and we're going to have a conversation a little bit later with the president of Shopify as to why there aren't more companies that people would want to invest in Canada. That's for a little bit later. But look, this is Pierre Poilievre reintroducing himself. Is it going to be enough? Are Canadians going to respond to it? Time will tell. But as far as I can see, that was a great first foray. Thanks so much for watching the show. Now, if you enjoyed what you saw, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode of The Ben Mulroney Show.